we are going to kick off our State of Digital Marketing, where there's really sort of three components to it this year. We're going to have my partner, Mark Greenbaum, is going to talk about the market update and what an update we have. Then we're going to sort of take a deep look at the sort of money invested and outcomes in both AdTech and MarTech for the last decade. And then we're going to talk MarTech trends with Brian Anderson. So with that, I invite my partner, Mark Greenbaum, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, there we go. Hey, thanks so much. Mark Greenbaum. I kind of run the M&A effort here at LUMA. We'll kick things off with the market update, looking at first at the public markets. So one of the areas on which we focus, the MarTech sector. Quite a year. So while the NASDAQ was roughly flat, we saw the sector up 80%, and of the 10 companies in that sector, almost every single one of them up, almost every single one of them over $1 billion in market cap. Slightly different story when you look at the AdTech sector. 4 companies there, mostly sub-$500 million market cap, down 20% as a category. And you might be saying, hey, we're missing one. We put it in the category of its own because if you don't, it tends to skew the data. But the Trade Desk, on continued financial momentum and success, up 164%. $5 billion market cap nowadays, impressive. So that's the public markets. If we kind of think about the IPO markets, we did see a return to health. 4 companies got out this last 12 months. All MarTech companies, I think, post-IPO trading was a little mixed. We had a few down. We had a few up. One up significantly. If we spend a second on SendGrid, almost exactly 1 year ago today, DMS West 17, SendGrid priced at a healthy 6 times revenues, $16 a share. A quick 11 months later, enter Twilio with an acquisition offer at 12 times. Again, revenue, 12 times revenue. That was priced at 36. It traded up to into the 40s, so you saw 186% 1 year increase. Thank you very much. I guess this is case study number 1, why we like the M&A markets better than public markets, maybe self-serving. Speaking of the public markets, IPO pipeline. We thought we'd be up here today talking about the pricing of Qualtrics. It's scheduled to happen this week, but enter SAP, took care of pricing for them. $8 billion deal, that is 21 times, not a typo, 21 times revenues. Thank you very, very much, I guess. A case study number 2 of why M&A markets are doing a little better than the public markets. So that leaves us with an IPO pipeline of who's next. There's actually a number of really quality companies out there, but nothing on the near-term calendar in terms of pricing. So a bit of a question mark from the public markets. But again, my favorite category, looking at M&A, it does remain to be the primary source of exits across the sectors. And we've seen big deals this last year. So, over 50 deals, over $100 million. That's across MarTech, AdTech, and content. But as Terry highlighted, MarTech is for sure the place to have been this last year. These are a snapshot of sizable deals in MarTech, and what we love to see, wow, 6 deals over $1 billion last 12 months. So let's hope we see this party kind of continuing forward. What else is trending in MarTech? Private equity. Private equity is here in a very real way for MarTech companies. 7 deals, $15 billion of deal value, and those were priced north of 20 times EBITDA. We have one theory as to what might be inspiring some of this activity. Terry referenced Marketo. So 2 years ago, you saw Vista Equity buy Marketo. At the time, everyone thought they were absolutely crazy. They bid a huge premium. They outpaid strategics, paying 8 times revenue. Private equity firm paying 8 times revenue for a company that wasn't yet even profitable. They put the Vista operational playbook in, turned the business profitable. We had heard maybe even inflected growth rate up, and enter Adobe 2 years later, paying 15 times revenue. So a very, very healthy return for Vista and their investors. We expect more of that to come. So speaking of investors, changing gears a tad, Terry had mentioned, we did a little analysis looking at money in, money out across the sectors, kind of what's happened with those investments. About a month ago, we put this report out, and Kerry gave a talk. We called it Problematic I/O. This was the ad tech focused, kind of red light, looking at VC money in and the M&A exits out. Just quick summary of what we saw on the ad tech side, which is money came in, $15 billion invested in the sector, chasing what has become a very successful, I think we heard up $100 billion digital advertising. Unfortunately, while that area is growing, a couple companies are eating the bulk of that growth. So the duopoly has really taken more than their share, which has resulted in that capital getting a bit aged. Over a quarter of it has been out there 7, 8, 9, 10 years. On the money outside, what did we see? We saw public markets pretty unfriendly to ad tech companies, unless you happen to be Jeff Green. We saw M&A being basically where folks have been going for exits, but we've seen an decreasing variety of buyers on ed tech. So I think those seats are going to get a little challenging. Why is that? Looking at the buyer universe, who's been buying in ad tech? I mean, historically, it's been the company we call the internet originals, the social networks. We've seen the telcos been active. But those top two categories, as they filled out their stacks and I think are more and more concerned about regulatory scrutiny, they've kind of faded as buyers. You're really left with almost a single category buyer's market environment in ad tech, which we think will be a little messy as that consolidation plays out. So that was problematic I/O in the ad tech space. Maybe we'll bring the mood up a tad looking at the other side, green lights, the SaaS, success in SaaS. So this is a bit of a tale of two cities. MarTech, very, very different. Definitely saw money in. Similar, $24 billion so far invested, almost 2,000 companies formed. But unlike the ad tech side, this money still remains fresh. 90% of it having been invested in the last 6 years. You've only got a small fraction of that that is in the long-dated side. And M&A, again, continues to be where most outcomes are. We've seen lots of sizable deals over 100 million. 2/3 of those have occurred in the last 5 years. So encouraging. Quick summary, ad tech versus MarTech. This is the tale of two cities. Yes, money chased both, big dollars in. In terms of what that looks like, certainly getting more long in the tooth on the ad tech side and looking for those large deals. They've really been all on MarTech. Why is that from the MarTech side? We talked about the ad tech buyers starting to fade. Different story in MarTech. I mean, the marketing clouds, the sizable enterprise software companies continue to be here in a big way, paying large multiples for strategic deals. And as we mentioned, private equity is very much here and around, which is not surprising to us given kind of the natural maturation and evolution of the sector. So we expect more of this activity to come. One of the reasons we remain so bullish on the sector. So thanks so much. With that, I'll hand it over to my partner, Brian Anderson, to talk about some trends.
Great. Thanks, Mark. So as Terry mentioned, this is our 4th DMS West. And for every single one of our state of digital marketing, we've always started off reminding ourselves, what is the goal of every marketer? And that's to drive more revenues at the lowest cost. How are they doing that? Delivering the right message at the right time to the right person. And if you look back over the years at how the MarTech vendors have been enabling this, in 2015, we noted how predictive analytics was really enabling the right message at the right time, and identity enabling that message to be delivered to the right person no matter what the channel or device. In 2016 seemed to be the year of identity. So 2014 was when Acxiom bought LiveRamp. 2015 was when Oracle bought Datalogix. And in 2016, it seemed like that's when the rest of the industry woke up to realize that the identity layer, identity capabilities is really critical for digital marketing. That same year, we talked about how the delivery channels had started to be commoditized by companies like Twilio and SendGrid that are now naturally coming together. And that next-gen marketing automation is really about extracting the data from the silos and then orchestrating the messages across all the channels. And then last year, we noted how the CDP category had really emerged to be the category that captured those capabilities. We did see, just a few weeks ago, Forrester put out this report. So customer data platforms overpromise and underdeliver. So we do have to recognize this is a really nascent category. But also, over the last, since the beginning of last year, over $400 million has been invested into this category. And like these leading investors at LUMA, we're very bullish on this category. And we think it's going to be a foundational capability for many years to come to drive digital marketing. So when we were all talking about, okay, what trends should we really highlight this year? We noted this year, more than really unique versus other years, there hasn't been big shifts in trends. So we thought, let's do basically what I just did. Let's rehash some of the highlights over the years about where we are. But then also let's note what are those trends that we're really excited about, some of which we've talked about, some of which we haven't. So just a list: marketing orchestration, data and identity management, performance advertising, content marketing, B2B marketing, especially ABM, artificial intelligence, convergent TV, audio, voice. So a lot of things to be excited about. But there's one category that we've started to spend a lot of time on that capture basically 1 through 8 and are really utilizing these advanced technologies and techniques to completely differentiate themselves from large incumbent traditional players, and these are the DTC brands. So instead of me droning on about dry topics like data and identity, Terry is going to give a much more colorful presentation about the DTC brands.
Say it isn't so. Thank you, Brian. So this is amazing. I love this topic because who doesn't love sexy consumer brands, right? We're all familiar with them. We all know them. And yet, in reality, it's an amazing narrative. And the protagonist, I found a perfect protagonist to talk about MarTech. Because let's face it, data, software, right, can get a little dull. Well, you talk about direct-to-consumer brands, everyone relates to it. It's a David and Goliath story. And it's ultimately the hero in this story is, in fact, you guys, MarTech. So let's get into it. I presented this presentation 2.5 weeks ago at the ANA conference in Orlando, Florida. My presentation was entitled Fire Your CMO, which is always Tweak's conference of CMOs. And it got a lot of buzz, and well, let's find out why. So I think it's appropriate to talk about growth given that the ANA's own study shows that over half the Fortune 500 companies are declining in revenue, earning them a decidedly, volume there please, poor report card. They know how to spend the money, they just don't know how to convert the money. So, and this is happening from across verticals in multiple categories. Relatively young companies with relatively little capital in relatively short amounts of time have garnered double-digit market share against category incumbents who have been building brand equity and loyalty for decades. This is a phenomenon not previously seen in marketing. And it's proliferated to almost every conceivable vertical, from clothing to food to cars to financial advisory. We have counted 400 brands across this direct-to-consumer space, and we're not done yet. The poor Adam is like, found another one. We're just keep sending them in. So this is a LUMAscape that's very much going to be growing over time. A couple of interesting parts of this. These DTC brands are global, or should I say, they're globally local. In other words, these brands, this phenomena is occurring in Britain, Canada, Germany, all across Europe, South America, and Asia. So this is a global phenomenon, not just American. But I have to say, by far and away, the best aspect of this direct-to-consumer wave is the incredible, meaningful female leadership as compares to the tech bro culture. Just look around the room. I am delighted to report that over 30% of the founders and CEOs are women, which is what I call a good start. So super excited for that. Look, and this is not some passing fad or internet meme. There's a real there, and I think once marketers really understand what's going on, they can't sort of look back. If you think about it, these DTC brands have more in common with each other than with their erstwhile vertical competitors. So yes, Allbirds sells shoes just like Cole Haan, and Warby Parker sells sunglasses just like Sunglass Hut. But I would submit that they have more in common, from their design proclivities to their go-to-market strategies, their media tactics. These have more in common with each other. And look, DTC is not the first successful challenger story. We've had David and Goliath stories across the industry, from enterprise marketing to consumer marketing. Heck, investment banking has their David and Goliath stories. Yes, David. And in fact, many ways, DTC in 2018 feels like programmatic in 2009. Think about it, right? You had rapid new company formation, a fragmented ecosystem, rampant venture financing, nascent consolidation, and a sector poised for huge growth. Think about DTC today. By the way, this is the DTC LUMAscape, available at lumapartners.com, content. Basically, all these same parameters exist in DTC. Well, we know what happened on the enterprise side, right? The good news was we grew from 0 to, Brian put out the numbers today, $100 billion in total spend, over 50 in programmatic, and yet, you know, we know the story, right? Largely dominated by the duopoly. Whereas I would submit things will be better on the DTC side because there's no natural monopoly because of all the verticals. Now, there is, of course, Mr. Bezos from Seattle, or should I say Crystal City and Long Island, which has had a big impact on both. We're seeing Amazon rise as the true, taking their place as the third sort of triopolist on the enterprise side. And in consumer, sort of Amazon's significant presence, 50% now of all e-commerce runs through Amazon, it's like a double-edged sword. In one hand, it's really bad if you're a DTC battery company, right? Because they're going to sell their own private label, or maybe mattresses. We'll see. They've announced 2 mattresses they're coming out with. But net, it's a benefit because the Amazon machine, the back end, provides a huge opportunity for these DTC brands. And we'll hear later about someone else who will be helping DTC brands. In fact, the digital giants are the biggest DTC brands to begin with. If you want to know which is your favorite DTC brand, just pull out your phone. They're all there on your home screen. So, as I mentioned, there's certain conditions that led to the DTC phenomenon. Sure, there's the venture capital, but let's not forget, you know, the iPhone and the whole smart app ecosystem. You've got, of course, you know, Amazon, AWS, Shopify, Magento, and of course all the media platforms. These were conditions precedent for the explosion we've seen. But perhaps an even bigger element is our own willingness, openness to try new brands. I don't know about you, but I mean, you know, I remember the first time I saw Joe Zawadzki wear a pair of Allbirds, and I said, those look like socks with laces. And he said, they're the most comfortable things ever. So I then went home, bought a pair, and then bought another pair and another pair. It's like word of mouth. We're trying new brands. And this ought to be very concerning for marketers because, let's face it, you built your whole career on this concept that if you invest in your brand, that you will actually be able to then reap the rewards. And look, this playbook has been run before, right? We saw it with mobile gaming in the aughts, where companies like King and Machine Zone and Supercell were basically customer acquisition machines. If you were to take a look at a P&L, let's say, of Supercell in 2010, numbers are rounded, $1 billion in revenue, only $100 million to produce the games because that's not hard to code it, and the rest of the P&L is dominated by their marketing spend and profit. So if you were to conclude that you know the comparative advantage of this company was that it was a great gaming company, I would submit that you should also consider the fact that there are also great marketing companies at the end of the day. And so, yeah, we saw it proliferate then to the app ecosystem, which was even bigger, and now DTC. So direct to consumer is, in fact, the third incarnation, the third gestation of this sort of natural evolution of performance. And it's been getting harder. So think about gaming. One vertical, one demo, digital to digital. So they spend in digital, they convert in digital, they deploy their asset in digital, and then they track usage in digital. It's a closed loop. It's easy. You got apps, and you start to get into a broader set of verticals, a broader set of demos, but still closed loop with the digital delivery. Well, DTC starts getting even broader still, because it's basically all verticals. It's everyone is in the demo. And now we've gone omni-channel, because you've seen Peloton bus shelter ads, and you've seen Casper 30-second spots. As we'll talk about, digital is not big enough to hold them. And ultimately, they need technology, hello MarTech, in order to recreate their sort of closed loop because of their omni-channel presence. Here's our shot at sort of figuring out what are the distinguishing characteristics, what are the DNA traits of direct-to-consumer brands, and here's our list of 7 items, and I'll go through those. So first is mobile, digital native, mobile-centric. Warby Parker gets over half their new customers from the phone, which is obviously a decidedly very different than traditional marketers. Next up, design. These companies are sort of, I call it the amplification of everything. We know how good Johnny Ive is in producing products. He's well known as the world's best industrial designer. It kind of feels like he's been cloned, and now we have Johnny Ives designing basically everything, which net is a good thing. Of course, there's the disruption, right? That's the D in D2C. So yes, this genre of marketers are bypassing agencies, bypassing retailers, bypassing wholesalers, going direct to the consumer, and in some cases, forward integrating into retail. The way they treat advertising is fundamentally different. Rather than doing spray and pray advertising with unknown identity, they do more precise, tailored marketing, focusing on first-party data. They want to know who the customer is. In fact, they utilize that identity, along with some AI thrown in, as Brian noted, to orchestrate their campaigns across all of the channels. And in fact, you know, AI has come a long way. We're all familiar with the sort of left brain capabilities of the computer, like propensity modeling and predictive analytics. What excites us is the right brain stuff. I mean, we're talking computers writing ad copy today. But AI comes with a warning. The very first marketing company to call themselves artificial intelligence rewarded their shareholders with a $2 billion market capitalization evisceration, perhaps earning themselves a different tagline. Okay, Randy, I had to do it. I had to go there. It's funny now. Wasn't funny then. You're not laughing. Okay, good. In fact, these DTC brands treat advertising as a cost of goods sold. So they fundamentally think of it differently. The relationship between their spend and the results is very simple. It's CAC math, customer acquisition cost math. And it's just that. It's conversion math. So the way they think about spending money in advertising, it effectively changes it from a discretionary expense, moves it up the income statement to become a cost of goods sold. And when you do that, there is no campaign off button. The media spend is always on. So think about it. When Uber or Machine Zone wants more customers, they go to AppLovin. AppLovin says, okay, you know the lifetime value of a customer. They negotiate the bounty, what they'll pay for all qualified new customers. And once they have that bounty set, AppLovin says, how many customers you want? And Machine Zone says, yeah, I'll take them all. I'll take as many qualified customers as you can get me. So there's no off button. So this fundamentally changes the nature of media intermediation. It's basically drinking from the fire hose. That looks painful. I don't know why that's a good thing. And the other thing that this migration of performance does is it drives operating leverage. So think about it. Whether you're thinking in DR terms or brand terms, doesn't matter. It's the same notion of migrating away from proxies and towards business outcomes. And this, ladies and gentlemen, and that always-on, no campaign off button is the reason why venture capital is so interested in this category. Why are venture capitalists suddenly investing in shoe companies or bracelet manufacturers or luggage? They never did that before. These are people who, you know, driving, you saw the Lambos upstairs. I mean, you know, they got a lifestyle support, right? They want operating leverage in the companies they invest in, which is why they tend to focus on technology. Well, it turns out that these companies look more like technology companies than they do their their historical verticals. Content marketing is a major thing here. A, because they don't have much money to spend on paid media, and B, they have great narratives. They have great stories. You know, the founder, she was frustrated with how ill-fitting bras were, and so she designs a new one, gets an engineer to make a prototype, finds some venture capital, boom, got a company, and then when they market it, they market the story of why she decided to found her own company. It's great marketing. As I mentioned, these brands have outgrown digital. They may have started on Facebook, but now they have outgrown, well done on the graphics, by the way, outdone digital. They need to go to retail, they need to go to out of home, and they need to go to TV, and TV they will be going to. You know, we primarily live on the coast, so everyone has broadband, but the reality is America is only 73% penetrated in broadband. You basically got to go to TV to sort of get the middle of the country and to cover everyone. And then think about OTT. OTT is basically DTC's nirvana. Think of the cohort that is millennials who are prone to buy DTC brands. Now think of the cohort that is millennials that's prone to subscribe to OTT. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the same cohort. There's almost a perfect duplication. And ultimately, DTC is leveraging convergent television, bringing digital attributes like targeting and personalization and attribution and performance to the big screen where you get sight, sound, and motion, audience and spend scale, premium inventory, and brand safety. Because of the massive spend in this category, the digital addressability of television, this, ladies and gentlemen, is the greatest opportunity in marketing's history, period. All right, so I know what marketers are thinking. Can we get in on the fun? Can we be the fourth incarnation in this natural gestation? Well, let's go to the video. Let's go to the board, shall we? Are they, our general marketers, digital native, mobile centric? No, they are not. Can they focus on product design, UX? Sure, why not? Disintermediation? No, their models are already set. Could they do identity-focused customer relationship? They, in many cases, don't even know who their customers are. So, no. Could they do performance media? Yes, but I'm going to go with a smaller checkpoint here because let's face it, the whole industry is set up on the CPM. In order for all of media spend to convert to performance, that's, you know, John Burbank here is like, yeah, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So limited check mark there. Could they do content marketing? Yes, and many of the marketers do it extraordinarily well. And then finally, growth-focused marketing talent. The answer is yes, but that comes with an asterisk because it may require a personnel change. Remember, the title was Fire Your CMO. Because let's compare DTC brands to traditional marketers. First of all, we're going to start with nomenclature. DTC brands are not called CMOs because spend doesn't matter. They're chief growth officers instead. Their age is a generation apart. Their educations are diametrically opposed. Now to the good stuff, compensation. Traditional CMOs have very cash-heavy compensation, and it's understandable. You know, living in Greenwich, 3 kids in private school, driving the latest Beamer, country club membership, and maybe an alimony payment or 2. So it's understandable they need the cash. Compare that to the hipster in Brooklyn who's getting by on a subsistence salary. He's got a huge vig on performance and a boatload of options so that if the company sells, away they go. It's a fundamentally different sort of compensation leverage system. Okay, so it's all about, again, talent and then incentives, which we think is a big issue. So there's 2 strategy options for general marketers, build versus buy. I'm going to go ahead and suggest that it's really hard for a legacy marketer to build a DTC brand. Let's take razors as an example. Here's a situation, here's a vertical where Dollar Shave Club comes out with an innovative business model and a coolness factor. Remember the video that Mike Dubin did?
Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great.
So this viral 2-minute video garnered over 25 million views on YouTube. And by the way, all organic, didn't pay a dime. An amazing way to launch a company. So what did Gillette, the #1 market share in razors, do in response to the launch of Dollar Shave Club? Well, they announced Gillette Shave Club, a copycat business model that screams inauthenticity.
It's almost like they don't want you to buy their razors.
Exactly, Mike. And by the way, for marketers sitting in the audience who still think they can be cool and launch their own DTC brands, well, think about a middle-aged white man trying to dance. Yep. It's like a slow-motion car wreck. You can't look away. So, for any of you guys who think, yeah, we could pull off the coolness factor, I want you to let this burn into your brain and let the governor be your governor. By the way, this is the last slide. We're just going to sit here and watch them dance. No, I mean, it's truly, and you want to be our Attorney General. Very few incumbents have had success with D2C. Think about it, right? And the ones that have are the best marketers in the world to begin with. And even them, it took significant efforts or reorgs in order to ensure that, that this had legs. So fine, maybe build not so viable. So now we have to look at buy. And by the way, I get it. We're an investment bank, and so this comes with a caveat because we often call for more M&A because when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Comedy's all about timing. So here are the 10 and only 10 scale deals over $100 million in the direct-to-consumer space. And what's fascinating about this, besides the fact that, remember, Mark talked about, 1,900 deals in MarTech, 10 deals over 100 million versus the 125, 200 when you include ad tech. So here's the thing. On the defensive deal rationales, that is to say, the acquirer was already in the category of the target, the valuations are 2 to 3x the underlying vertical valuations. The offensive ones, forget it. We're talking tech multiples of 5, 10, sometimes even higher. Let's take a look at a couple of these. So Unilever buying Dollar Shave Club for $1 billion, 5 times revenue in 2016. This deal stands for the proposition that if you can come out with a funny 2-minute video, add to that $164 million of venture capital in 6 years, you can turn that into $1 billion and where the buyer is happy.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay.
Okay, well, hold that thought there, Mike, because turns out sales flatlined right after the acquisition. So maybe Vanderbilt is not exactly the right analogy. Let's face it, guys. They're doing a bunch of things with the product. They're expanding the product or taking it international. So he's still there, and they're going to, I think, will make a success of it. But it did certainly flatline. The other one, closer to home, is Walmart buying Jet. When this deal was announced, $3.3 billion, everyone came out and said, this is a terrible mistake. This is a horrible deal. In fact, the Motley Fool said this is a huge risk to Walmart. The same institution, a year later, said this was one of the best deals ever, just proving that, just don't listen to people. In fact, this is so good that essentially it's made Mark Lowry into the world's best compensated Walmart greeter. And by the way, the title here is critical. Culture infusion is the deal rationale of a lot of these traditional marketers saying, we need that hipness factor. Remember the governor? Yeah, you can't forget the governor. Well, that's what they're trying to do here. Is they're trying to, and Mark Lowry, who not only do they acquire his company, they give him a huge role at Walmart. And so he's away at the races, and they like that in sort of invigoration of new talent. By the way, one might ponder whether we may see a 21st century conglomerate. Remember my comment about these companies having more in common with each other, so there's like a horizontal element here? Query whether we could see that someday. So clearly, we seem to have struck a chord. Ad Age and many other folks wrote this up. I got up on stage with an FBI jacket. Yes, I did that at the ANA. That was pretty funny. And so it was great to get the media attention. What I did not expect was the Mark Pritchard feeling compelled to write a point counterpoint interview, which he gave to Ad Age, and of course I came up with a rebuttal to that, where I basically, gave Mark a big hug, because clearly we think P&G is actually on the more innovative part of the curve here, and embracing DTC with investments and acquisitions. And so I would not put him in the category of the sort of the dunderheads, and it was great to have the false equivalency with Mark. So that's our marketing trends. And now I'm going to ask Brian to come up and introduce Mark Lavelle. Thank you.